Hi everybody, it's Alisa Murray here again with another Martini Talks, and we're here visiting with my dear friend. You've met her before if you've been following us on our Martini Talks. Our team player, my extraordinary makeup artist, Dhyanna Salcedo. And cheers to you. Thank you for having time with me today with the Martini Talk. Thanks for coming back and
thank you for having me
and sharing. And I'm going to take a sip of mine and put it on this table over here because these martinis are full. We just made these on the Sweet Life Kitchen episode with Rabitan fruit and my homemade Buddha's hand simple syrup, and they're really delicious, but they're very strong. And it's morning time in Houston today for our Martini Talk, so it's a little early, even though it's a Sunday, so we can have a little Sunday fun day.
Sunday fun
right?
Day.
So I'm gonna take a little sip and then I'll get started. Would you like for me to put that over there for you too?
Sunday fun day, bye.
All right, so talk to me. We were visiting about so many things that we have in common, and we were talking about all kinds of different things, and the subject came up about Sebastian. And so I knew that that would be something that a lot of people would like to maybe hear your perspective on, because a lot of people experience this. And so I want to share your story with our audience and our people that are on audio on our podcast. So talk to me about that. This was 6 years ago.
Yes.
So tell me what happened.
So in 2014, after 4 years of being into a relationship, I got pregnant. And the emotion and the feeling about being a first-time mom and everything, very excited, planning a future, and everything, getting all the baby items and everything ready. In 2014, I was 36 weeks and 4 days pregnant when I started attending my weekly appointments. And I clearly remember going back and going to my weekly appointments, and everything was healthy. He was normal. I was so excited when I found out that I was having a baby boy, because I love sports, love to play soccer, and pretty much I was very excited and getting ready, to the announcement and plan everything, for my baby boy. So I was 36 weeks and 4 days pregnant when I started going to my weekly appointments, and the week prior to the most heartbreaking news telling me as I arrived to my appointment, I went to my weekly appointment, and as I was getting ready to get the ultrasound done, I kind of felt that they were taking a little too long. And that day my mother came with me to my doctor's appointment for the first time, and something was weird, something was strange as they were taking long, and the doctor usually takes his time to do checkups and everything. And I remember them sending me to another room to the ultrasound. So I was like, maybe the machine's not working here, what's going on? So I noticed that my mother went to the next door. She stepped out of the room, and she told me that she was going to go to the restroom. And she came back. They moved me to another room, and they tried the ultrasound run the ultrasound and everything. And they took long again until the doctor came after maybe 10-15 minutes to give me the most heartbreaking news, which was there is no heartbeat. And from that moment there is my heart, my life, everything stopped. My heart dropped, and it was devastating. I remember coming out from the clinic and screaming and crying and just shouting, and you could not stop the emotions and the tears coming from my eyes and everything. And just a week prior to that, they had told me that everything was healthy, that he was healthy, that everything was fine. And the only thing they told me is that he was small, he was weighing 5 pounds. But never in my life I thought of walking into a doctor's appointment for me to hear the most heartbreaking news, which was there is no heartbeat.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So obviously, a lot of people can resonate with this situation, right? There's a lot of people that have experienced similar situations. I actually experienced a similar situation way early on into one of our pregnancies. And my father, as you know, who's deceased now, but he was an OBGYN, and he was very much responsible for getting a lot of people pregnant in North Carolina growing up as a child. He was the first to do reproductive endocrinology in his practice, and in the state of North Carolina was one of those guys that just really enjoyed the process of helping couples become pregnant.
Right.
And it was one of his just pure joys to be able to give that gift, especially for those that were struggling to conceive. But Brian and I, we've had 2 miscarriages. We had one when I was at University of Houston, and I was in my early 20s, and it was an obvious situation happening because I was sicker than sick. I mean, I was really sick.
Right.
And I remember calling Daddy. He was still alive, and Brian and I had been married for maybe, I want to say, 5.5 years. And so it was getting time. I was getting ready to finish my degree. And the plan, of course, y'all know that follow me, the plan was to get the degree in psychology, and had been at, Savannah College of Art and Design, was interior design, painting major and all that. And got to Texas and they didn't accept those credits. So I started over as a sophomore at U of H, and I was thinking about going into law school. And so I was going to finish school, have a baby, go to law school, have a baby,
right.
And I'm the oldest of 5 children, and Brian's the baby of 4. And so we had always thought that we would have 3 or 4 children at least, especially if we'd had 2, if we'd had duplicates is what I call it. If we'd had 2 girls, we would have definitely tried for a third to get a boy.
Right.
We probably would have stopped at 4. Right? But anyway, and so I remember getting pregnant, not realizing I was pregnant, and then I called Daddy because I was like, I'm so sick. And by the time I got to North Carolina, because I didn't trust anybody yet in Texas, because I'd been with Daddy's practice my whole life, we'd already passed the baby naturally, spontaneous AB. And then we had Victoria Ann, and then we planned for another baby, and we got pregnant with another baby. And I was probably, I want to say 20 something weeks. It was in that weird stage, and all of you ladies know, where you're pregnant and no one knows you're pregnant, but you're starting to get a little chunky.
Right.
And then, then you kind of go over the edge, and it's very obvious that you are pregnant. But I was in that window still, and every time that I would lean forward to pick up a child in the studio, because of course at that point the studio had been going for 4 years, I would just get so sick. It was like somebody had just sit me in a sit and spin from one of those rides at the carnival. I was just not well. And I remember calling Daddy again, and he was still alive for that, and I said, there's something wrong. There's just something wrong. And so he was the one that wanted me to go in, because at that point, you're not going every week. Right. You're going like once a month or whatever it is. And so I remember making the appointment, and I went in to see the doctor, and she saw me, and then she didn't say anything. And then she came back in, and of course I've been in that life, right? Daddy was a doctor, and I've been in his office. One of my first jobs was to be, it sounds horrible, but to clean the speculums with the dishwasher. I was working in Daddy's office, and I grew up in him, with him doing that and seeing patients and whatnot. And so I knew something wasn't right, but I didn't know what was wrong or right. And so then I remember the other guy came in, like the head guy, and same situation that you had. It was like everybody was not saying anything, and they're kind of trying to be careful about how they say it, because they don't want to freak you out or make you flip your what. Right. And I am very grounded in terms of taking bad news, I think because of Mother getting killed when I was little. So I'm always, for better or for worse, prepared to hear like the worst case scenario. It's not a nice way to live your life thinking that way, and I'm very positive to you and everybody that knows me. Right. But deep down in the inner being of my whole way of looking at the world, there's always that little voice in the back of my head that says this, and this can go wrong. And so I had already prepared myself for anything bad, right? Because that's just, I'm always in that state of mind to make sure I'm ready to receive whatever could happen, because I was so caught off guard when Mother got killed and I was 8 that's a forever damaged situation. And I'm sure that psychologists and psychiatrists would have a field day with that. But anyway, and so I remember seeing the ultrasound, and you know how sometimes they'll turn it away from you. Well, he turned it towards me, and I could see the full baby, and I could see no heartbeat. And I remember putting my fingers on the top of my belly and pushing down, and the baby went to the bottom and then popped right back up to the top. And he said, "This is why you're so sick. This baby has died, and you are carrying him or her. I don't even know if they had even told me at that point which one it was. And we have got to go in and do a D&C and get it out before it makes you really sick. And so I remember calling Brian, because I had just gone over to the hospital to see the doctor. It wasn't like, I wasn't thinking we were going to get that news, right? It's the same as you. That was not my expectation. And they told me that I could come home. I, told them I had photo shoots to do. And of course, in my style, I'm not going to just drop everything and go to the hospital and let you do whatever you want to me. Let me make a plan. Right. And so they would have preferred for me to just leave the office and go straight downstairs to the room and get it done. But I wanted to come home, and Brian was really upset. And thank goodness Victoria Ann was too young to really remember it because she was 4. And so she knew that we were having a baby, but she didn't really process that yet because I wasn't even showing. So it was an interesting time. But I remember it being a time where we were like, okay, well, what do we think about this? Like, what's the takeaway from this? And so I remember Daddy, again, he was still alive, and he said to me something that's really resonated with me. And I've helped mommies that have been in the client base that have experienced this a lot, is that, and we've talked about this too as friends, the time period that we're living in now, there's so much technology with medicine that women are able to find out if they're pregnant very early. And so many people lose babies. You don't realize the propensity of that particular thing. Everybody thinks everybody just gets pregnant and there's a full viable pregnancy and here comes a baby and woo-woo, right? And the reality is that people have been losing babies in various different time points in a pregnancy forever. And you've got the technology. The thing that makes your situation unique, and in a way my situation unique, is that we were further along into it, right? And so I don't know if they gave you any help in terms of trying to do any testing to figure out what the actual cause was, but mine was so small and so clearly not far enough along to do any of that kind of stuff. It was chalked up to hypertension. It was chalked up to having maybe been a birth defect, and just sort of God's way was kind of the words that were used. Is that there's certain things that if they won't click together, they won't get finished. And just to take it and let that be your sort of consolement on, this baby would not have been able to live. So that's why it died. And that's kind of what I was told, which is kind of an interesting thing because you think about that and I don't know how I feel about that, right? You kind of think about that and chew on that, especially when you're about to give birth.
Exactly.
That's a whole nother level of trying to be consoled. And the grieving process, of course, is really bad. I mean, I remember when James Edward was born, we had lost my daddy. We had lost our cat. The day I delivered him, we lost our dog. That was our first baby. And I was in the hospital. And James Edward was born, and they took him out early because of, again, high blood pressure. And I wanted him, like with me, like all mothers do. And they were like, he's blue, we have to take you. You can't have him. We have to take him. And so the next time I saw him, he was like in the NICU and he had all these wires and he looked like a ding dang, project for science. They had everything wired up and just laid out in the bed, just like this. And I walked in and there were all these little babies in the incubators and I thought, well, my God, they're sicker than he is. And the nurses were like, no, he's the sickest baby in the room because he's not done. And we have to be able to get into him as soon as we can, and we don't have time to try to fiddle faddle with an incubator. We need to be able to emergency crash and do what we need to do. And that was scary. And for 14 days he was in the NICU. And for 14 days I was home without a baby and not pregnant. And I know what that feels like. And so, of course, I was up every 3 hours pumping titties because Victoria Ann had life-threatening food allergies, and I was, rampant and going that we were going to be nursing this baby. And we did. We titty-fed him for 2 years. Thank you, woo-woo, to me and that particular thing, because that's a big task in and of itself. But it's an awful feeling to have a baby at the hospital and be home and you're not pregnant anymore. And I can't imagine having to come home and there not be a baby at all. And that's what I've experienced that vicariously through my friends who have been with me, because what I photograph, and primarily photograph and have for 22 years, are pregnant mommies and babies and families, and I am with them through that whole interim of maternity, newborn all the way through. And so many experiences have been shared with me through the years of similar situations as yours. And it's always the same. There's never a real definitive answer as to why. There's always a little weirdness in trying to figure out what if and how is there anything you could have done differently. I guess it's like that with everything in life. It's just harder. It's harder, because it's a baby. So I don't know. It is what it is. And you know how I feel about that. And I love you. It's a struggle. It's one of those things that you'll be marked with just like
for the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
Exactly. So back to whenever I gave birth, the reason they told me, basically, the news that they gave me when I gave birth, I actually have to give a natural birth without taking any epidural, no type of medication. At that point, I wanted to die along with my son. And they rushed me immediately to the hospital, and I had to give birth. And it was 2 o'clock in the morning, 2:09 in the morning, when I gave birth, and not wanting to even push, not even having the strength to push and to give birth, when all you wanted to do is die. I remember, closing my eyes and hearing that we need you, mm-hmm. Push, we're here, and just deeper within the inside, spiritually, just saying, you are strong, I'm here with you. So at the end, after pushing, it was the most heartbreaking thing, having to go through the pain of physically giving birth, mm-hmm. plus the pain of wanting to hear that cry, mm-hmm. and for him to be alive, and then having to know that you're walking out of the hospital with no baby and having to live, without him for the rest of your life. It was so heartbreaking, traumatic experience, and it was just unforgettable. But when I gave birth, they did give me the only excuse or explanation that they gave me was basically that he was wrapped around the umbilical cord was wrapped around his neck twice.
Oh.
Now, prior to that, the only thing that came up to my mind is going back to the week prior, is that he was small, weighing 5 pounds. And I mean, the only thing that came up to my mind is thinking that if he was small, and the only explanation that they gave you was that he had the umbilical cord wrapped around his neck twice, was that maybe he was too small to even survive that. Because prior to that, being a first-time mother, I had a nurse who was visiting me every week, mm-hmm. Checking, my blood pressure, just teaching me, the first-time mom experience and everything. And I was learning, and also being into the anatomy and physiology, and nursing major and studying and everything. I gave my all and everything to be as healthy as possible physically, and studying and being, gaining knowledge and wisdom, to be prepared for the life of the first-time mother. So at receiving those news, it's like, okay, I did everything that I could, or I could have done, in order to save him. But none of that, it's like you said, we don't know why, and all I could say is that, I gave and surrendered everything to God, and, it's His will and not mine, and, that happened. But all I could say is that this experience was the most, other than being the most traumatic and painful experience that everybody could, have, is that it has changed my life, and it's just so unforgettable because it's like you mentioned, it's been 6 years, and after being 6 years, I still went to sleep in the same position I was whenever I was pregnant. So only this year, now it's like I live and do many different projects. I work for a school, work for a community, and also serve an unforgettable legacy, which is Sebs Studio, and working and together has been beautiful. It has been unforgettable that now that I get to do everything, my life has changed. I'm able, up till this year, I'm able to sleep normal and in peace, facing up, because before, like I said, it's been 5 years that I was still sleeping in the same position, that I was whenever I was pregnant. And I used to sleep every night at 2:09 a.m. every night until this year. So it's like I said, this experience has been definitely unforgettable. And for my experience, they told me that it was because of the umbilical cord. But I've done research. I mean, like I said, prior to that, there's been times where babies, they get wrapped around the umbilical cord gets wrapped around their neck, maybe up to 4 times, and they survive.
Right.
But like I said, I don't know why, and I just I can't wait to the day that I find out my answers, and I actually find out my fulfilled purpose, or why was the reason that God had to take my son with him to heaven. So, but other than that, I definitely agree with you, and it's been so amazing to get to meet and help others, because
Right.
actually in the Hispanic community, I had never heard, when I had this experience, it was my first time. I thought I was the only one. I was like, I didn't know anyone until I got involved into the Instagram community. I started seeing mothers, from California, from Australia, from all over the country. It was not just me,
Yeah.
there's so many people out there that, have been going through the experience. And not only that, I met angel mom community, where whether they gone through miscarriage, pregnancy loss, baby loss, and everything. So it's it's been the love, the support, that they give you, and it's a blessing to be able to help somebody else who has been through
Right.
that. And it's like, okay, you're not alone,
Right.
and it's been wonderful. It's been unforgettable.
I'll tell you the way that I got through the situation with that baby, the second baby, the one that was a viable looking baby, because the other one I had no relationship with. I mean, I knew I was pregnant, and we tested positive on the test, and then by the time that I started having problems and tried to get on a plane to North Carolina, it was already gone. I mean, like when Gary, my dad's partner, did the test at the office, he was like, "You are 19 weeks pregnant on blood work, but there's nothing left in your uterus. You've completely aborted everything on your own." So there was not a relationship. There had been no ultrasounds. There had been none of that at all. And then the second pregnancy, of course, was a planned. We did not plan the first one, but we weren't like planning. Like, I was still at U of H, right?
Right.
It was like a whoopsie, but it would have been okay because we'd already
Right.
been married for 5.5 years. So it wasn't
Exactly.
like anybody would be like, "Oh, what's happening here?" You know what I
Yes.
mean? But the deal with the second baby is that if I had had that baby, James Edward would not be here. Okay, so because if you do the math, we were pregnant, we were due, I think in maybe February or something, and we got pregnant with James Edward, I think pretty much on my birthday, because my doctor warned me. She said, "Nah, don't you," she's also one of my clients, she goes, "Auntie A, don't be drinking vodka and getting knocked up on your birthday. We just got the D&C done. I want you to give your body a break. Let's give it a few months before we do that." And I was just like, throw all caution to the wind. God does what he does. He'll take care of whatever he needs to take care of. You know how I am spiritually. You're the same way spiritually.
Yes.
There's a lot of commonality between the two of us on how we see the world, the universe, our lives. And so when I went in to see her, she was like, "Oh, Lord, you did it again. You got knocked up on your birthday, and now you're having a baby in the middle of the Christmas season," which, of course, is the busiest season for photography.
Right.
And James Edward was born. He'll be 18 on November the 5th. But, which is crazy to even think he's been here for 18 years. But you know what? When you do the math, that child could not have been here. And so for me, be it my own story, my own take, my own way of dealing with that, he is me. I have like a little mini me. I have like a really sweet son that's just, blonde-headed, blue-eyed, curly blonde hair, looks like my mother. I look like my mother. He's the sweetest gift. And my daughter's wonderful and special too, and we love both of our
Right.
children, but he would not be here. He could not have been conceived to be here and live a life and make a difference if that baby had lived. So for me, sorry to get teary-eyed about it, but for me, that's been my way of, consolement is the wrong word, being at peace with what happened. Because I'm not one of these people that, plans the baby birthday parties on babies that I miscarried when they were not even babies that I could even hold and touch and feel. Your situation's a completely different issue. I mean, you've got a birthday, you've got a grave, different from a D&C, different from all of the other options that happen along the way with that pregnancy, but it's touched your life in a way that's made a difference for you, and you're able to do that. And that may have been Sebastian's purpose.
Exactly.
You know what I
Yes,
mean?
yes, definitely. You are so right about that. Um,
You're not the same person.
I'm not the same person.
And who you are to others around you is going to be a beautiful gift that you could not have given that gift if this had not been your experience.
Exactly. I think that his main purpose was to show me true love, the meaning of love. And after he passed away, my life changed completely. I started seeing life differently. I've experienced how to have it all, and how in a heartbeat, it's completely gone. And his whole purpose was for me to find, the meaning of true love, and to surrender everything, to surrender my whole life and just give it to God. And I started walking a journey that it's been unforgettable. I've had multiple experiences, from not having nothing to having it all, to serving and loving. And it's just, God has transformed my life in many ways. Not only he changed me physically, but mentally, spiritually, psychologically, and spiritually and emotionally above all. And it has been an unforgettable experience, and that's the whole meaning and purpose of behind Sebs Studio, is that yes, I serve clients and others through the beauty of makeup and hair artistry. But the whole meaning is to serve an unforgettable experience, physically, but most importantly, spiritually, for you to unleash the inner beauty, the true meaning of inner beauty, and for you to become the best version, of yourself, and who God created you to be. But I could have never, be where I'm at today. I could have never met you, if it wasn't for that unforgettable experience. And I thank God every day for my son. I do miss him, and I take deep breaths, and believe me, I'm standing here, sitting here with honored, sitting here in front of you today, just talking about my testimony and being strong. But
I love you, girl. You know that. You know
yes,
that. Listen, guys, it's been a heavy topic, but I hope that you guys have learned a lot from it, because as women, we all go through things, and the men do too, that are with us along the way. They may not be the ones carrying those babies, but they're the daddies of those babies too.
exactly.
So it is one of those things that families do deal with, and at the end of the day, even though we don't always have all the answers, the fact that you've been able to come out on top and share your story, I thank you for that too. And I'm sure that the viewers are able to resonate with that and the sincerity behind your transformation. I mean, you really are an inspiration to others. You're able to give a gift and bring them closer to God and closer to the purpose that He has for them. And that's all that I've ever tried to do too with the Sweet Life. And so with that, we share that commonality of what we're doing for the world.
Exactly.
Is not something we're charging for the world to pay us. We're just sharing what we love and trying to help each other along the way. And that's what all of this is about at the end of the day. And so I just love the fact that you're part of my team and my friend and my family. And I thank you for being here today.
Yes, I thank you. I'm so honored. Like I said, if it wasn't for this unforgettable experience, and what happened to me, I just couldn't have not only survived and stand here strong, but have met you, have met a wonderful Angel Mom community, and everybody who I've met, and I'm glad that, we both have, the same heart, the same mentality, and we're both growing, spiritually, and above all, serving others, through what we love to do the most, so
Just to share.
Exactly.
Just
to
share,
spread,
to help spark some
exactly.
inspiration
Yes.
to somebody to
and be above all, be the light, and let our light shine bright, and thank you again. It's been an honor, and I'm so glad. I love you, and I'm so grateful for being part of your wonderful, amazing team.
Oh, wonderful. Listen, guys, I hope you found value in our conversation and enjoyed it. Do me a favor and like and share and ring that bell so that you're notified each week when we drop another Martini Talk. Do us both a favor. If you've gotten any inspiration, comment down below. in the episode, and we'd love to hear from you as well. And we hope you have a great day. Thanks for joining us. Bye bye.